Q Brian.
All right, get the kids away from the radio because I'm about to recite something that might be a little bit frightening for them, the GDP report. Do we need any more evidence at this point in time that markets are completely broken? GDP report is released today. First quarter economic growth here in the U.S. The U.S. economy contracted nearly 3%. Nearly twice what economists had projected, and stocks, well, they're just like, no biggie. No. Are we insane? No, I'm not insane. Wall Street is insane. The economy has contracted now. You talk about going from bad to worse. The economy has now contracted at its fastest rate in 5 years, and markets shrugged it off. GDP shrunk by the most in 5 years, 2.9%. Those are the official numbers, and no one gives a crap. Even gold could care less. We ended out Wednesday's trading session with modest gains, but certainly nothing too terribly exciting. And consider the drivers right now. I mean, I will say this. You've got Iraq. You've got this GDP report. I would say that after the short covering of last week, you can trust in the rally that we've had and that we're at a pretty good buy level right now. Certainly support levels are there. Let me run through this. I shouldn't even have to. Hey, here's the GDP report. Here's where the Dow closed out the day. End of program. But nonetheless, let's run through these numbers here if we can. Pull up the... One moment here. Pulled up the email. Lost the email. A lot of that going on lately. Here we go. Commerce Department said gross domestic product contracted at an annual rate of 2.9% in the first 3 months of the year, substantially more than forecast for a decline of 1.7%. U.S. first quarter GDP was initially reported to have increased by 0.1%, but it was subsequently revised to show contraction of a full 1 percentage point. Difference between the second and third estimate was the largest since records began in 1976, according to the Commerce Department. Data showed personal consumption grew at 1% in the 3 months to March, below expectations for a 2.4% increase and down from an initial estimate of 3.5%. Keep in mind, consumer spending typically accounts for nearly 70% of U.S. economic growth. Now, I heard an analyst on Fox today say, we don't even really need to be all that concerned about the GDP report because let's keep in mind that this is not a rally that has been driven by GDP. It's been driven by the Fed. And the anchor says, okay. Could we just take one moment and just consider the implications of what that actually means and then talk about it? I mean, you've got a forum here. You've got a national audience. Maybe we should explore the possibilities of what that means in the long run. And think about the potential doom and gloom that this spells for the U.S. economy in terms of second quarter GDP. We're going to see those numbers in the not so distant future. You heard it here first. I am predicting a contraction in second quarter as well. At the very least, growth will be exceptionally anemic, but I predict we're going to see a contraction. But I have no idea how markets will react. None. I think there's this comfort factor now. As the analyst on Fox said, this is not a rally that has been driven by GDP. Well, actually, I think he said by the traditional means. Federal Reserve stepping up to the plate. And I think there's a comfort factor there. Everyone knows that we can rely on the Fed now at this point in time. That is a sign of a market that is completely and disastrously broken, my friends. Today's GDP numbers mean that the first quarter of 2014 was in fact the worst quarter since the recession ended 5 years ago. The New York Times says what makes the sharply negative number all the more stunning is that it didn't feel like an economic contraction at all in the first quarter. Employers kept adding jobs. Many measures of business activity and consumer confidence were stable, and forecasters are expecting a healthy pop of growth in the second quarter, which ends next week. But the economy was hit by an unlikely combination of negative forces that conspired to turn what seems set to be another quarter of so-so growth into a considerably more gloomy